Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guests today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back into some more bite-sized business advice. And today's episode is one of my favorites. We're going to talk about an entrepreneur's story or the journey to success. And we all define success differently. So let's just put that on the table. But I got to know our guest today for the past 5 whole minutes. And I'm excited to dive in his story with you, to be honest with you. I know nothing about it, but it sounds interesting. So let's go. Devan Gonzalez, welcome to the show, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's going to be really fun.
I feel like we're old friends at this point, right? 5 whole minutes.
Exactly.
But all jokes aside, your story does sound interesting, and I want to dive deeper into it. But why don't you give me the super high level, zoomed out approach? What you do as far as your business and where you are now, then we'll kind of go back and dissect it.
Definitely. Yeah. So, I mean, I launched a franchise, with my business partner, and that's based off of our gym model, our boot camp style model, that has no class time. So it's a little bit different approach for the fitness industry. But now my day-to-day is essentially, launching and scaling the franchise and opening up new locations. We have one in Tampa, Florida. We have our main one out here in Los Angeles. And then we have a few more that are going to be opening up in Texas and in Washington State as well.
I love this. So it's an interesting industry to be in, just as a whole. I think it's one of the most oversaturated industries and maybe commoditized industries out there. And you've found a different way to approach it, which that in itself is cool, aside from going down the franchise path. So tell me about what makes you different, the no class time. Like, what does that mean? And how does that help you stand out in your market?
No. Yeah. Great question. So, I mean, the fitness industry is oversaturated, right? I mean, that was one of the big things. I wanted to open up my own gym, and I didn't want to be another gym that was the same thing, copy and paste, different logos, different color schemes, and so forth. So my background was actually from personal training. I was a personal trainer for, 10 to 13 years before I actually launched the gym. But during that time, I saw my clients go into these boot camps in between our sessions and always come back with the same complaints. They couldn't get a class that they wanted to. The class times that they were trying to pre-book were always over. They would show up late, and then they get, either they couldn't work out, or they would get shamed for showing up late, or if they missed a class, they would get charged. So I was like, it's crazy that all these different models do this exact same thing. And then I realized that, just like a lot of businesses, it works for someone. So someone's like, I could do that too. And then they copy and paste it, not much difference. So I was like, I'm just going to try to solve these problems. So the first one was the no class time. So while we are a boot camp style model, you can come in at just like a big box gym, like an LA Fitness 24 or something like that, where you can come in during our operating hours at any time, right? And that's the first part to it. But when you do walk in the doors, now you get that same feel, that same energy, and that same motivation from the community of the group that's in the workout. The difference is, for us, like, people are starting the workout, finishing the workout every couple of minutes. So you're not set. You're never going to be late to a class. And now you can come in, you can do a 30-minute workout. You can do a 75-minute workout. Again, it's all up to you and all up to your schedule. So that's like one of the biggest things that members love, is that flexibility. And then the last piece of it is the 11, even though it, people ask, like, what does the 11 stand for? And what's the, this huge metaphorical meaning? Honestly, it's because there's 11 stations, right? So it's like, our trainers will say different things and have fun with it, but the 11 stations change every single day, depending on what the muscle split is, depending on what the day of the week it is. Like, we don't do the same split every single day. So that continuously rotates. So when you come in, you'll have a brand new set of workouts to do, but then the trainers will make the stations harder or easier for you depending on your fitness level. So it's almost like you're getting a personal trainer along with this as well. So it's basically taking personal training, boot camps, and basically big box gyms and blending it all into one.
That's cool. I've never heard of anything like that before. So it's a really, really cool model. And what popped in my head though was, well, 2 things. First, am I hearing that you have 11 trainers always training? Help me
No.
understand that better.
Yeah. So a traditional boot camp model, right, has one trainer, and then they have anywhere from 20 to 60 people in a class,
Mhm.
right? And now that model is cost effective, but not functionally effective for the client, right?
Right.
Now, for our model, we don't have a sales staff and we don't have a front desk staff because we teach our trainers how to do that, right? And so we limit the cost there, but we have 2 trainers on the floor at all times, and each station can only have 2 to 3 people depending on the square footage of the location. So essentially it's 2 to 3 trainers for 22 to 33 people, and that's all that's really needed. And we also have additional TVs that are on a pre-loop essentially of the exercise that acts as an additional trainer, so that client's not just standing there waiting like, what is this station again? They can look up, they can see it, and then one of the trainers will come over and adjust for them. So it's 2 to 3 or 2 trainers depending on, you know, the square footage. Some locations might have 3 if the owner wants to hop in and be there for a little bit too, but 2 trainers is usually what it is.
Okay, that makes much more sense. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was, so when you look at an industry, especially this one where you and I both said it's oversaturated, it's commoditized. We have gyms that are purple and yellow that charge $10 a month, all the way up to several $100s a month, and everything in between. You look at that and you say, okay, I can understand generally what the main pain points are for clients and adapt to that. But sometimes adapting to those might not be profitable, which is why they're not done as is now. So how did you look at those things, identify what are the core things that you wanted to differentiate on, and then also make that profitable for your gym?
I mean, there was another model that I use as a baseline, you know, without dropping names or anything, but they're not a boot camp per se. They're in a different niche. And, you know, I was like, it's crazy. Like they have this model that is seeming to work. Like, I wonder if I can take it, twist it, and make it work for, you know, more boot camp style. And it did. You know, it didn't work off the first iteration of it, you know, but we launched in 2021. So the year before, it was the tail end of COVID. Me and my business partner are in the park, actually in Northridge, and we were running this every single week, essentially just having people come try it and, you know, fixing out what kinks we needed to do, because if it got overfull, if there was backup anywhere, like we had a park, we could have endless space. So it was, you know, that flexibility, because once we sign a lease for location, now we're kind of confined to a certain space. So I will say the one thing that is really cool about our model is the fact that with a traditional boot camp model, right? Let's say your square footage, you can have 30 people in, right, in a given hour. Everyone starts together, everyone finishes together. So that means 30 people is your max. Ours is that rotating, you know, factor. So people finish every 2 to 3 minutes. People are starting every 2 to 3 minutes. So essentially we can have 88 people to 122 people, depending on, again, square footage in a given hour in a smaller square footage. So we don't necessarily need to charge as much as some of our competitors to get the, you know, hit basically their baseline. We can sell our price a little bit lower. And it's not that we want to be the cheapest model, but our whole thing is bringing almost like a jam-packed, you know, thing of value, and it's a no-brainer. It's like we're bringing more value than a lot of our competitors, and the price tag is lower. It's like, why not? You know, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know one of the things that gyms traditionally struggle with is, you just touched on it, the square footage and the membership. So you only have a limited space unless you expand that, of course, but revenue growth with that. Some gyms will tack on supplements or more private training or other levels of subscription, whatever that may be. So how do you foresee growing your revenue and also your profit, being in this model with the space that you have?
Yes, I mean, our memberships are our baseline, right? I mean, and that's what our, you know, bread and butter is. But we do sell supplements as well. We do have challenges that we only do it twice a year, because we don't want to be like all the other models where they're running it every 6 weeks or 8 weeks. Our 2 challenges are basically right in the beginning of the year and then right before the holidays at the end of the year, to make people, give them that little boost and everything like that. But some of the other revenue real drivers for us is we do have meal plans and all that kind of stuff where we actually write out the meal plans for clients. It's an add-on to their membership if they want that. Otherwise, we do give them nutritional guidance and, help them just with their nutrition. And then obviously merchandise and the heart rate technology and all those things. So, I mean, there's different revenue streams coming in from the same model.
Okay. No, I like that. That's super cool to understand. So let's flip this a little bit because we've gone down the gym and business path, which of course is fascinating. But I want to hear the mindset side. I know you love talking about mindset and it's a big focus for you. So you said you were a trainer for 10 to 13 years ish, and then you jumped into owning your own gym and then of course franchising it. What did your mindset look like, and what's the transition been over the past 3 to 4 years as you're building this out?
So, I mean, the mindset was the first one transition was from basically an employee to being self-employed. I would say entrepreneur, but that entrepreneurial niche was self-employed, because I went from working from corporate gyms to private gyms. And then it was like, okay, me and the owner got a disagreement. And I was like, I built this whole personal training side for you at your gym. Okay, that's fine. I'm out, and he wanted to basically move me to a different location that I had to only speak Spanish. And I was like, that's not going to fly. So I left and went private. And that was that first real bet on myself. And that's where I understood mindset. It was like, everything begins and ends with your mindset, right? If you believe something is achievable, it is. If you stop believing it's achievable, then it isn't, right? And so that's the biggest thing, that I didn't know all the things I needed to know to scale my personal training company before the gym. And then I found the tools, I did some research, and I, made 6 figures for years. And then it was like, okay, this is nice, and then it was that transition point from, okay, now I'm going from self-employed, but now I need to actually become a business owner and open a gym and, bring on a team and all those kind of things. So now it's not just about me and the success that I could have, it's the success my team can have, because their success is my success, right? And then taking that again and, going to the franchise model, now it's not just my team, but I'm bringing other people on that are essentially building their own teams. And essentially now it's their business that I'm helping, them build and create a mindset behind.
Yeah, it's so funny to watch people go through that transition of being employed at whatever degree, jumping over to owning their own business or starting their own business. And the first mindset shift they make or think they make is, I'm employed and now I'm a CEO. It's like,
Yeah.
Hold on, you skipped a very crucial step, which it sounds like you did it. But was there ever a period where when you went from working for someone else into starting your own brand, your own model, where you're like, I'm a CEO? And what was that like to get past that?
Honestly, I didn't take the CEO title on until the franchise came about.
Okay.
Right. And so technically, with my S Corp and the personal training company, on paper, I was a CEO, but again, for that, it's like, a CEO of who,
Yeah.
And so it's like, for those things, I saw myself as a self-employed personal trainer. I still called myself an entrepreneur, but I knew that there's 2 buckets of entrepreneurship, right? There's self-employed and then there's business owner. And so I still knew I was a self-employed entrepreneur, but then I switched and leveled up and became a business owner essentially. But even then, me and my business partner, we called ourselves co-owners of Strive 11 Fitness, right? It wasn't CEO or anything like that. Then launching the franchise aspect, it was like, okay, we can't just be co-owners now. There needs to be a structure about this, but also what roles are we fulfilling? And so that's where the CEO, COO, and those titles kind of came about, because as we continue to bring people on, other roles do need to be filled, and those titles and those job responsibilities also need to be put in place.
Yeah, I agree. And it's often the hardest thing to transition to for any entrepreneur is realizing that going from self-employed to business owner is a huge process. And it's often the hardest part of growing any business. The 0 to 1 employees is the hardest part. It's way harder than going from even 10 to 20 employees in most cases. So what was your biggest or your most profound mindset shift in that self-employed to business owner transition that has helped you continue to propel the brand forward?
I will say delegation is key, right? And I would say my biggest one, I mean, the hardest one was obviously bringing the first employee on, because everything they did, you felt like you could do it better. And so you started to limit basically what delegation you would do, because you're like, I could just do it better. And it's like, yeah, but you can't continuously grow if you're being the bottleneck as well. But I'll say the actual bigger mindset shift was when I stepped away to build the infrastructure of the franchise, and my business partner, who didn't have an entrepreneurial background, he didn't come from being self-employed, letting him have the full reins of the gym and letting him know, like, I'm here, like, use me as a soundboard. I'll give you the advice that I need as I'm building this, and him just trying to muscle through it. And that's where I realized that common sense is only common to the person that knows it, because I was doing things by common sense because of the things I learned as a self-employed entrepreneur. And when I left, those SOPs weren't put in place. So all of a sudden we had a revenue dip, and basically little fires everywhere, until all of a sudden I noticed them, and I was like, hey, what's going on? He was like, I don't know, man, I'm trying to figure this all out, and I didn't want to bother you. And I was like, okay, that's not how this works, bro. Like, you asked me, like, I could have solved this is how you do this. This is how you do this. You can reach out to this person for this. And I was like, I know those things. That's why we're partners. He's like, I know, but I know you're busy. So I was trying to figure it out. And I was like, okay, we got to take a different approach to this. I was just doing those things. I didn't know you didn't know that you had to do that, so that's where I came up with, like, common sense is only common to the person that knows it.
And most times it's not common at all.
100%.
That's what I've found, at least.
Exactly.
That's good advice, though. And that's always a good test, is trying to break something by truly stepping away. You reveal all the gaps at the same exact time, which can be stressful. I don't advise that for every business, but it is good every now and then to step back and see, okay, if I don't do what I'm here to do, what breaks? And then let's fix that so then we can scale faster. So interesting to hear your process there. Your journey sounds fascinating, and I appreciate you sharing it with us. And it's just the beginning too. You have, what is it? Five locations when you bring these last few on board?
So we have the Tampa one, we have our Los Angeles one, and then we're in the works of 3 more right now. So we'll be at 5. The goal for the year is 10.
I like it. The year is young. I don't see a problem with that. It's a cool model. I appreciate you sharing it, and best of luck in your journey too. If the listeners want to reach out, learn more about you, hear more about what you're doing in your gyms, and maybe find a location near them, where can they go? Where's the best place?
They can go to just my website. It has everything from, all my social medias, but also with Strive 11. It's just devangonzalez.com.
Awesome. It's on the screen there. It's on the show notes, wherever you're watching or listening. Devin, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
For those of you watching and listening, make sure you go check that out. Devin also has a podcast, so you can go ahead and listen over there. And we'll see you tomorrow on Harmonious at Lunch. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Harmonious at Lunch podcast. Make sure you subscribe on whatever platform you're on, and we want to invite you to join us in the Small Business Success Facebook group, our private group where guests and listeners come together to grow your business. We want impact-driven entrepreneurs who are ready to go to the next level in this group, so we can all share ideas, collaborate, and grow our businesses together. Go to whatif.com/group, and we want to invite you to join today. See you on the next episode of Harmonious at Lunch.